Hey, welcome to my channel. So this is my first video on this channel, and I decided to do an unused monsters from the Silent Hill franchise video. I don't want to make my intros long at all, so let's get into this video. Butterfly. In the first Silent Hill, this was one of several cut animal-based enemies tied to early ideas for Alessa's fears. The final game already turns her trauma into flesh-heavy creatures with insect and animal traces, but early concepts apparently pushed that even further, and the butterfly sits right in that lane. Visually, it resembles a purple cousin to the float stinger, so its likely purpose was to serve as another regular roaming enemy rather than some special boss. It never made the final roster, and Masahiro Ito has only confirmed that he made some of these unused Silent Hill creatures without explaining the exact reason each one was dropped. Chicken. This one comes from the same early Silent Hill pool of unused animal monsters, and it reads like Team Silent experimenting with how far Alessa's fear-driven creature design could stretch before the lineup got narrowed down. The surviving description is simple, just a large avian-type creature, which suggests it was probably meant as another standard enemy option rather than a set-piece monster. Its purpose was basically to expand that broader animal fear concept, but like the other cut animals, it disappeared before release and never got a detailed postmortem beyond it to acknowledging that some of those unused designs were his. L. The stingray-like monster. This is one of the stranger Silent Hill 1 leftovers, because instead of looking like a natural extension of the game's humanoid horrors, it leans into a manta ray shape. That still fits the early design note that Alessa originally had fear of more animals than the final game ended up using, including stingrays specifically. Its likely purpose was to be another field enemy built from that larger fear palette, but it was cut during the process of tightening the final monster roster into something more cohesive. Like the other unused PS1 enemies, it survives mostly as a file remnant and image rather than a fully explained design note. Frog. This one is exactly what it sounds like, a featureless frog-like enemy that existed in the early Silent Hill material. It probably would have functioned as another basic hostile creature pulled from Alessa's broader abandoned animal fears, and the fact that it is described as featureless makes it feel very in line with the series' habit of stripping recognizable life down to something uncanny and wrong. It was dropped before the final game locked in its enemy lineup, most likely for the same overall reason as the other animal creatures. The team settled on a more focused set of monsters and left these early branches behind. MKY. This is one of the more memorable Silent Hill 1 cuts because the description gives it real behavior, not just a shape. It is a thin quadruped with a snout and sharp teeth that uses lunge attacks, so this was not just a doodle in a corner, it sounds like something that had at least some combat identity. Within the first game's early concept framework, its purpose was almost certainly to be another aggressive animal-derived enemy reflecting Alessa's wider fears, but it was cut along with the rest of that unused animal wave when the final monster set was narrowed down. It ends up feeling like a glimpse of a version of Silent Hill 1 that leaned even harder into feral creature horror. Ostrich. This is one of the weirdest AS1 leftovers on paper because it is described as a large enemy resembling the faceless torso of an ostrich. That sounds absurd at first, but it also tracks with Silent Hill's habit of taking a familiar form and twisting it into something fleshy, incomplete, and wrong. Like the butterfly, frog, and snake, its purpose seems to have been to fill out the first game's early animal fear enemy set before the developers decided to streamline that direction. It was cut before release, and what survives is basically proof that the original game's monster planning was broader and in some ways even stranger than what players finally saw. Snake. The snake is one of the clearest cases of a cut Silent Hill 1 enemy that almost left a ghost behind in the shipped game, because a road sign warning about snakes remained in the final build. The monster itself is described as a faceless slithering enemy, which fits the same early concept batch tied to Alessa's wider animal fears. Its purpose was probably pretty straightforward, another roaming threat built around movement and shape more than symbolism. Heavy lore, but it was removed before release while traces of its existence lingered in the environment. That leftover sign is what makes this one feel less like trivia and more like evidence of a version of the game players almost got. Afflicted. This was part of the original Silent Hill. Origin's build developed by Climax Lay before the project was handed over. Unlike a lot of vague concept material, the Afflicted is directly described as an enemy type seen in prototype versions of the game. So this was a real creature in the earlier incarnation of Origins, not just an unused sketch. Its purpose was to be part of that prototype enemy lineup, but when Sam Barlow's UK team inherited a project he described as being in terrible shape, they rewrote the script, redesigned levels, and remade the creatures under brutal time pressure. The Afflicted was one of the casualties of that full overhaul. Wheelchair Monster. This is one of the best documented Origins cuts, and it looks exactly as unpleasant as the name suggests, a decrepit man sewn to a wheelchair. It belongs to the earlier creature pool associated with the troubled pre-Barlow version of Origins, and its likely purpose was to serve as a standard or situational enemy inside that older design direction. When Climax UK took over and stripped the game back into something closer to classic Silent Hill structure, this monster was cut along with other prototype creatures. The interesting part is that it shows up in both the prototype materials and the later Origins concept art page as an unused design, so its existence is about as locked in as cut Silent Hill content gets. Meat. The meat monster is described as a walking meat carcass, which is a very Silent Hill way of saying something nobody should have to meet in a hallway. It was part of the earlier Origins creature lineup and seems to have been intended as one of the game's regular enemy concepts built around raw body horror more than a clean symbolic label. Sam Barlow's comments about inheriting a broken project are important here, because the reason this thing vanished was not some tiny balance tweak. It was that Origins was heavily reworked at a structural level and several creatures were thrown out in the process. The meat monster is basically a snapshot of the uglier, rougher version of Origins that never shipped. Undead Bellhop. This is one of the few cut Origins creatures with an intended location attached to it, which makes it easier to place than most. It was conceived for the Riverside Motel section of the game, and the design was built around a bellhop motif, so its purpose was clearly to be an area-specific monster tied to that environment. When Climax UK overhauled the inherited build, the undead bellhop went with the rest of the discarded creature set. It is a good example of how different the original tone of Origins may have been, because it sounds like a monster built around location flavor in a very direct way, and that whole direction got cleaned out during the rescue job. The unused apartment boss from Silent Hill 2. This one is fascinating because it was not just a loose concept, it was planned to appear in the apartments as a boss encounter. Masahiro Eto later said the model could not be finished on schedule, which is the kind of mundane production problem that quietly changes a game forever. Even more interesting, he later said leaving it out was the right call and that the boss showing up there would have been overkill. So its purpose was clear, to punctuate the apartment section with a boss, but the reason it was cut was a mix of deadline reality and, in hindsight, better creative judgment. The Grim Reaper-like creature from Silent Hill 4. For this one, the public evidence is concept art rather than a named enemy file or a detailed creator note, but it is still clearly documented as unused. The design resembles the Grim Reaper, and its purpose beyond that is not publicly explained. So the fair way to frame it is as part of an abandoned set of monster ideas for Silent Hill 4 rather than a fully mapped encounter. Why was it cut? Nobody has given a direct reason for this specific creature, only that Silent Hill 4 has concept art of various monsters that never made the final game. It is one of those cases where the design survives, but the production story around it mostly does not. The double-headed creature from Silent Hill 4. This one has a rare, very direct explanation from Masashi Tsuboyama. He said the team had a creature with 2 heads on one body, but decided not to include it because it would not be ethically well accepted by the public. So unlike a lot of cut monsters where the reason gets lost in prototype fog, this one has a clean answer. The concept crossed a line the team did not want in the finished game. Its purpose was simply to be another creature in Silent Hill 4's monster roster, but it was rejected for sensitivity and audience acceptance reasons before release. Water creature number 1 from Silent Hill, Homecoming. This one appears in Mayan Escalante's concept work and is explicitly listed among the unused Homecoming monsters. The exact gameplay purpose is not publicly documented, so there is no reliable way to say whether it would have been a hallway enemy, a set-piece threat, or something tied to a specific zone. What is clear is that it was part of Homecoming's wider creature exploration phase, and did not survive into the final enemy roster. The reason given publicly is basically just that it remained a concept-only monster and was ultimately unused. Water creature number 2 from Silent Hill, Homecoming. This is the companion cut design to the first water creature, also preserved through concept art rather than in-game files. Like the first one, its purpose is undocumented beyond being part of Homecoming's creature development process, so anything more specific than that would be guesswork. The cleanest explanation is that Double Helix explored more aquatic horror designs than the game eventually needed, and this second water creature was another one that never moved past concept stage. It is one of those monsters that shows how much wider the visual net can be during pre-production than what the finished game actually uses. The early Shattered Memories. Enemy concepts. Shattered Memories does not just have one cut monster, it has an abandoned early direction for its enemies. Concept art shows the team first trying to visualize narrative themes through much more literal crash, disease, and tumor imagery, before they pivoted toward the raw shock approach that made it into the game. There was even a neutral Rorschach-style enemy concept meant to serve as a baseline before enough player psych data had been gathered to bias the creature design toward a specific route. Their purpose was to be the game's core enemy system, but they were cut because the team decided that this early line was too literal and moved toward a version of the monsters that fit the final game's tone more cleanly. Swarms from Broken Covenant. This one comes from Climax's rejected sequel pitch rather than a released game, but it is still part of the franchise's unused creature history. In Broken Covenant, the protagonist Hector Santos would have faced swarms of bees, moths, cockroaches, and other small bugs that could gather into humanoid shapes or even larger forms, which is a pretty strong mechanical and visual idea. Their purpose was clearly to be a flexible enemy type that could shift between infestation horror and creature horror. They went unused because the PlayStation 3 sequel pitch was turned down by Konami, and Broken Covenant itself was never produced. Unidentified PT Monster number 1. Data mine material from playable teaser points to an unused monster resembling a muscular man with gray skin. Unlike Lisa, this thing is not part of the final playable build, so it reads like one of the alternate creature ideas sitting behind the walls of that project. Its intended purpose is not publicly explained, which is the frustrating part with PT, but the simplest reading is that it was either an enemy concept for later teaser beats or part of the larger Silent Hills creature planning that never surfaced in playable form. It went unused for unknown reasons, which is about as honest as the record allows. Unidentified PT Monster number 2. This is the huge lanky torso creature with no head and missing extremities, the one briefly seen in the Tokyo Game Show concept movie for Silent Hills. Compared with the first PT Leftover, this one feels less like a background test and more like a glimpse at the broader monster scale. Kojima Productions may have been aiming for beyond the apartment loop. Its purpose is still undocumented, but it was clearly some kind of major creature concept rather than a random prop. The reason it was unused is not stated directly, though at minimum, it never made the final playable teaser, and then the larger Silent Hills project died before ideas like this could be realized. Pyramid Head, the 2013 incarnation. This version belongs to the cancelled 2013 Silent Hill sequel Masahiro Ito worked on. The idea was not to bring back the old Silent Hill 2 creature in a lazy way, but to redesign Pyramid Head into something players would accept, and then kill him off early. Partly because Ito had grown tired of seeing the character reused outside James Sunderland's story. That gives this monster a very specific purpose. He was meant to be a deliberate setup and then a removal, almost like Ito trying to end the franchise's dependence on its most marketable image from inside the game itself. The reason he remained unused is simple. The project was cancelled. Valtiel, the 2013 incarnation. This one was created for the same cancelled 2013 sequel, and unlike classic Valtiel, this version had a very explicit narrative job. Ito said he had already planned for a new Valtiel to kill the new Pyramid Head in the opening scene, so this creature's purpose was basically to act as the executioner of the franchise's most overused icon. That makes it one of the more conceptually loaded, unused monsters in Silent Hill history, because it was tied to an idea about resetting the series and moving on from automatic fanservice. It went unused for the same reason as the reimagined Pyramid Head. The sequel itself never happened. This is the end of the video. If you liked this video, make sure to comment your favorite unused monster. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day.